With the new Superman film finally being released, there's been a lot of buzz around the Man of Steel. So I figured there's no better time to dive into Superman related projects for my next video. There's a lot riding on this film. It's the first entry in the new DCU, now under the direction of James Gunn and Peter Safran. And given the lukewarm reception to some of the other DC movies in recent years, yeah, the pressure was on. Thank goodness it's actually doing well at the box office. Sorry, Sniper fans.
Sorry.
Because if it flopped, we'd probably be stuck with nothing but Batman movies for the next 2 centuries. And as much as I love Batman, my heart can't take that kind of commitment. But I'd still be there, front row, opening night for every single one of those new Batman films. Anyway, in the spirit of celebrating Superman's legacy, I thought we'd take a trip back in time, from a man to a boy. No, not that boy. This one.
He looks like any other 19-year-old college student.
I wouldn't want you doing anything foolish that might tip off who you really are.
The girls think he's cute,
I really gotta go.
but the bad guys think he's a wimp.
What you do, college boy? Take some get tough pills?
And that's a mistake. Superboy! Now, the superhero of the 90s is here on Earth. Don't mess with Superboy!
I didn't even know this show existed until I stumbled across it while researching Superman media. And I've got to say, it was a pleasant surprise. So, without further ado, let's dive into the 1988 Superboy series and see what it's all about. Superboy was an American television series that ran through 1988 to 1992. The show was developed by executive producers Ilya and Alexander Salkin. If those names sound familiar, they were the producers for the first 3 Christopher Reeve Superman films, and that Supergirl movie nobody remembers.
It's all right, Supergirl. We never saw you.
We never even heard of you. Thank you.
Superboy was the first television show produced, at the time, by the new Disney and MGM studios. Upon first watching the series, I thought the show could have been a prequel to the Christopher Reeve Superman films, without Superboy's suit and Reeve's suit sharing similarities. It's also cool that this show coincides with the 50th anniversary of Superman. It's also ironic that this show came out a year after Superboy the comic book character was erased from existence due to Crisis on Infinite Earths, an event that saw the erasure of the entire DC multiverse and rebooted it. At first, I wanted to do an episode review for each season. Then I saw that each season has 20 plus episodes. So I thought it'd be better just to focus on a couple of standout episodes that best represent each season. Anyways, let's get into season 1. The first season of Superboy takes place mostly at the fictional Schuster University, located in the fictional town of Seagoville, Florida, both named after Superman's creators, Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel. Most of Clark's adventures revolve around news stories that he, TJ, and Lana report on for the school paper, the Schuster Herald. Another nod to Joe Shuster. Honestly, this might be the most love I ever seen Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel get in a Superman project. Season 1 was originally just 13 episodes long, but even in that short run, there were a few standout episodes I want to highlight first. The show doesn't just lean into comic book action, some episodes surprisingly feel grounded and a bit gritty for a late 80s superhero series. I appreciate the variety early in the season. Episode 2, A Kind of Princess, has Clark taking on crime bosses, I guess.
Listen to me, Benny. Casey's got to be behind it.
Now, we discussed this as reasonable men.
Go to hell.
I can't oblige. I've got business in the state, your business.
Over my dead body.
Stop. You take one more step, and I'll blow the girl to bits. Now freeze.
Then, in episode 6, Bringing Down the House, he's saving an amusement park from being destroyed. Then we get episodes that tackle more serious themes. Episode 3, Back to Oblivion, explores the long-term effects of wartime trauma. Episode 4, Foreign Exchange Student, follows a girl facing suspicion and prejudice because of her nationality. Episode 18, Terror from the Blue, confronts local police corruption. And episode 11, The Invisible People, addresses displacement and homelessness. Episodes like these reveal Superboy's willingness to engage with real-world issues such as bias, injustice, and the importance of doing what's right. Well, for the first half of season 1 it does. So let's dive into the episode overviews. Episode 1, The Jewel of Technical. Professor Thomas Lang, Lana Lang's father, and his colleague Gerald Haynes bring a mysterious jewel back to Schuster University. After uncovering it in the temple, Lana, Clark, and TJ eagerly await Lang's return. During the plane's landing, Superboy prevents a crash caused by a malfunctioning front wheel. After reuniting with Lana, Lang places the jewel in the university exhibit, but a sudden storm triggers falling debris. Clark saves Lang and Haynes, who warns that removing the jewel might have had dire consequences. Lang dismisses the warnings. Later, he attempts to reconnect with Lana, who's frustrated when he cancels dinner due to work obligations. That night, Lang falls gravely ill. Haynes insists that returning the cursed jewel of Tetracol is the only way to save him. Meanwhile, Lex Luthor and his henchman, Leo, attempt to steal the jewel. Superboy intervenes but is weakened by the jewel's power, allowing Lex to escape with it. As Lang's health declines, Superboy recovers, retrieves the jewel from Lex, and returns it to the temple, lifting the curse. The episode ends with a heartfelt reconciliation between Lana and her father. This episode effectively establishes key characters and relationships by blending action with emotional stakes. We meet TJ White, a quick-witted friend of Clark and Lana.
Perhaps a change in strategy is in order.
That's what I like about you, Hall. You're always thinking. Why am I always the one to get his head imploded? It's not fair.
Who happens to be a great photographer, and he's a bit of a lover boy. Like me. He's basically Jimmy Olsen. It's also mentioned that he's the son of Perry White, editor of the Daily Planet. We're also introduced to Lex Luthor in this episode, but I'll dive deeper more into his character much later. This episode also establishes the rivalry between Superboy and Lex Luthor, and that the public knows about Superboy, a detail I'll explore in a later episode. And lastly, we're introduced to Lana Lang, who seems to be inspired by a pre-crisis comic book counterpart, which established her as Clark's childhood friend, a dynamic this version of the show closely follows. At the heart of the episode is Lana's strained relationship with her father, Professor Thomas Lang. The sharp argument where Lana says,
"You shouldn't have had a daughter. You should have just had another relic,"
powerfully conveys her frustration at always coming second to his work. His years spent on archaeological digs left an emotional scar, and while Lana wants to forgive him, she's understandably weary. A heartfelt hospital scene, with Lang apologizing for missed birthdays and Christmases, leads to genuine reconciliation. This is a very touching scene between both characters. It just sucks that we never see this man ever again after this episode. He pretty much got Thanos snapped out of the show. Overall, the premiere episode balances action, character moments, and intrigue, perfectly setting the stage for the series. We just set up some solid character groundwork, and the next episode kinda shrugs it off. Let's move on to episode 5, Countdown to Nowhere. Superboy steps in when mercenaries disguised as students kidnap Lana and steal a top-secret weapon from a campus lab. Superboy thwarts their plan to sabotage a rocket launch at the Kennedy Space Center, and rescues Lana in the process. This episode feels like filler, but it's notable for being the first one filmed, originally intended to be the pilot episode, for the Superboy series. Canonically, this episode marks Superboy's first public appearance.
Who are you?
I'm called Superboy. I fight for truth, justice, and the American way.
But for some reason, it didn't air until episode 5 in most TV markets, and is listed that way on the DVD box set for season 1. That explains the weirdly disjointed character interactions, like Lana and TJ acting like they're meeting Superboy for the first time.
Hello, TJ White, Shoes University, Secret Department of Journalism. Can I get an interview with you, sir? Really nice to see you there, Lana. First of all, who are you and where do you come? How do you fly? Are there more people like you? Do you work for the government or something? Lana, where does he come from?
up there. Isn't he wonderful?
The whole thing, Clark, there's this guy, and he flies. No kidding. Yeah.
And he's so incredible and amazing and so unreal.
I'm sure he is.
While the villains are flat,
What do you know? It works. Yeah.
this episode still offers a glimpse into the show's early growing pains. As a pilot, it might have worked, with tighter writing, but placing it later in the season just adds confusion. Personally, I think the Jewel of Tetracol serves as a stronger, more emotionally grounded series opener. Also, it's worth mentioning that Martha Kent makes her first appearance in this episode.
Harold?
Hi, Clark.
Oh, hi, Ma.
Clark, how is everything at school?
Everything's fine.
After a run of forgettable, mid-tier adventures, the season finally delivers a gut punch with episode 15, Stand Up and Get Knocked Down. TJ's friend, Michael, is chased by some criminals and forced to overdose on... Wait, I can't say that here. Let's just call it Stardust. Before TJ can reach him, Michael is unalived. Determined to uncover the truth, TJ and Clark investigate the comedy club where Michael worked. TJ goes undercover as a performer while Clark investigates from the outside. At the club, TJ meets Angel, a witness connected to Michael. The comedy club's owner, Dexter, warns her not to talk to him. While rehearsing, TJ overhears Dexter discussing a drug shipment but is caught and sent away. Later, Dexter pressures Angel into drugging TJ's drink before his performance. On stage, disoriented and haunted by visions of Michael's death, TJ begins to unravel. Clark intervenes, but both are captured and locked in a room with Angel as the building is set on fire in a staged overdose. Orchestrated by Dexter, Clark becomes Superboy and rescues both TJ and Angel, and brings Dexter and his crew to justice. The episode ends with TJ ready for another shot at amateur night. This episode stands out as one of the darkest in Superboy's first season, tackling drug addiction and overdose with surprising maturity for a kids show. Opening with a character being unalived from an overdose sets a grim, shocking tone. While the episode vividly portrays Stardust's effects without naming it directly.
Are you crazy, Dexter? That stuff packs twice the wallop of PCP. You won't live long enough to put the glass down.
TJ's breakdown on stage, driven by guilt and Michael's last words, hits hard, showing just how heavy loss and addiction can weigh on someone. Interestingly, Angel only gives him a small dose of Stardust. Not enough to unalive him, but just enough to disorient him. And in that hazy state, TJ ends up witnessing something that no one has. Clark transforming into Superboy. Angel's arc as an addict manipulated into complicity adds another layer of tragedy to this episode. Her decision to seek rehab offers a glimmer of hope amid the darkness. Still, the episode stands out for its willingness to engage with serious, real-world issues, something rare for its era of superhero TV. Just when you think the show couldn't get any heavier, it adds a ghost story into the mix. One rooted in guilt, memory, and unfinished business. Let's move on to episode 22, The Phantom of the Third Division. An old ally, called the Phantom, resurfaces, stalking Jonathan Kent and blaming him for leaving him behind during the war. The Phantom kidnaps Jonathan and takes him to an abandoned hospital, forcing him to complete a brutal obstacle course, mirroring the torture he endured as a prisoner of war. Before things escalate further, Superboy steps in and stops the Phantom's revenge. In the end, Jonathan brings the Phantom to a sanatorium, underscoring his lingering guilt and deep sense of responsibility. Jonathan Kent makes his series debut in episode 7, Troubled Waters. He's portrayed as a pillar of the community, active, principled, and unwilling to stand in the face of injustice.
He's not interested in any farming. He's interested in what lays below our land. Might be uranium, gold, oil, we don't know. Just give me a couple of days. I'll go to the state capitol first thing in the morning, and I'll check it out with the geology people.
Unlike many other versions, this Jonathan isn't just a supportive background dad. He's got his own moral code and history. The episode explores his past as a Korean War veteran, offering a rare glimpse beyond his usual fatherly role. There's confrontation with the Phantom, a fellow soldier left behind and tortured during a retreat. It delves into themes of wartime trauma, guilt, and unresolved scars. This portrayal loosely draws on Jonathan Kent's pre-crisis comic roots, where he was originally a World War II veteran. Later adaptations would drop the military background altogether, instead focusing on his role as a father and husband. As I mentioned earlier, this version of Jonathan Kent is no bystander. He's dealing with heart palpitations and high blood pressure, but that doesn't stop him from throwing hands with the alien-possessed Superboy. So far, I think this is my favorite version of Jonathan Kent. This is a little fun fact I found when I was doing some research on Jonathan Kent. His pre-crisis version is hinted to be a descendant of the Silent Knight, one of Hawkman's past lives. I thought it was a cool little fact to toss in. Around episode 9, the tone of the show begins to shift from the earlier episodes. As I mentioned earlier, the first season of Superboy only consisted of 13 episodes. However, due to the show's immense popularity, 13 more episodes were ordered, leading to an increased budget and improved production quality. With these changes, the writers introduced more fantastical elements, introducing enemies such as aliens, energy vampires, dimensional creatures, and other iconic elements in Superman's mythos. Like before, I'm going to highlight only some of the episodes that best represent the changes in tone and quality in the latter half of Season 1. Let's start things off with Episode 12, Kryptonite Kills. A green meteorite brought to campus turns out to be kryptonite, which weakens Clark when he's near it. Lex Luthor steals a piece and uses it to power a device that knocks out the city's electrical grid. enabling a string of robberies around town. Later, he turns the kryptonite into a necklace for his girlfriend. When a fire breaks out in their dorm, Superboy tries to save them but is weakened by the necklace. Lex escapes and tells Leo to retrieve only the necklace from the fire. Leo retrieves the necklace and manages to save Lex's girlfriend in the process. Angry at Lex's betrayal, she tosses the necklace down a sewer drain. Superboy recovers in time to extinguish the fire. Later, Professor Peterson seals the kryptonite into a lead box, and Superboy hurls it into space. The episode ends with the kryptonite necklace still floating in the sewers. In addition to having an okay supporting cast up until now, this episode introduces a new character, Professor Peterson, your standard helpful scientist archetype in most superhero shows. Somewhat like Professor Hamilton for Superman the Animated Series. Interestingly, a character with the same name pops up in that cartoon as well. Though he gets his cheeks clapped by Mercy Graves. She can clap my cheeks too.
What did he say?
Kryptonite actually made his debut in the Adventures of Superman radio show back in 1943, in the episode Meteor from Krypton. But technically, its first unofficial appearance came earlier, in a 1940 unpublished Superman story titled The K-Metal from Krypton. It wasn't called Kryptonite yet, just K-Metal. Its first official comic book appearance was in Superman issue 61 back in 1949, in the story Superman Returns to Krypton. The version of Kryptonite that appears in this issue is red instead of green, yet it still has the classic weakening effects typically associated with green Kryptonite. The Kryptonite we're familiar with today made its proper debut in Action Comics 161 back in 1951. We've seen Kryptonite make its debut. Now the show gives a classic Superman villain his first ever live-action appearance. Let's move on to episode 16, Mr. Mxyzptlk. While covering an excavation with Professor Royer, TJ and Lana witness Superboy unearth a mysterious totem, which turns into Mr. Mxyzptlk. He makes a bet with Superboy. If he can make Lana fall in love with him within 24 hours, he gets to take her back to the 5th dimension. Mxyzptlk stages a fake mugging, impersonates Clark using magic, and does everything he can to win Lana over, but fails miserably. Frustrated, he resorts to brainwashing her into agreeing to marry him. Looking for answers on how to defeat him, Superboy learns from Professor Royer that Mxyzptlk can be defeated by getting him to say his name backwards. Just before Mxyzptlk leaves with the brainwashed Lana, TJ slips her a note. Mxyzptlk grabs the note and reads it out loud, and accidentally says his name backwards, sending him back to the 5th dimension and breaking his control over Lana. Mxyzptlk first appeared in Superman issue 30 in 1944, created by Jerry Siegel and Ira Yarbrough. This version of Mxyzptlk is based on his Silver Age counterpart. Traditionally, the only way to send Mxyzptlk back to the 5th dimension is to trick him into saying his name backwards, Kel Tep Zekem, which banishes him for 90 days. However, Superman would have to come up with different ways to get him to say his name backwards each time he came back. Unfortunately, his live-action debut is pretty bad. In most of his scenes, he comes off as more awkward than annoying.
I got a joke for you.
Okay.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Jimmy.
Jimmy who?
Jimmy a kiss.
I got secondhand embarrassment watching this scene. It's a shame, really, because the actor who portrayed him, Michael J. Pollard, is a great actor. It's possible that he wasn't given much to work with, because it seems like he was ad-libbing a lot in his scenes. I guess the version that appeared on Superman the Animated Series might be the best version we've gotten so far. And now, we've made it to the final episode of Season 1, and it's arguably the strongest episode of the entire season. It gives some real development to our favorite no lip having, no hand washing because I'm evil bald-headed demon, Lex Luthor. Buckle up for episode 26, Luthor Unleashed. Lex Luthor breaks into a military base and steals a top-secret weapon. Later, a chemical experiment Luthor is conducting goes wrong, causing an explosion in a Schuster laboratory. Superboy saves Lex from the fire, and, surprisingly, Lex thanks him. But the next day, Lex wakes up bald from the accident. Furious, he blames Superboy and swears revenge against him. He hires 3 assassins, promising to give the military weapon to whoever kills Superboy first. One by one, their attempts fail, and Lex is forced to flee. The episode ends with Lex and Leo hiding out in a monastery, secretly planning their next move. Lex Luthor made his debut in Action Comics number 23 back in 1940. Originally portrayed as a brilliant mad scientist who can match Superman's brawn with his brain. This version of Lex seems inspired by his pre-crisis counterpart, as it's established he knew Superboy in his younger years. In Superboy Season 1, he's reimagined not as an evil genius, but a manipulative, spoiled rich kid.
Leo, she's going to regret that. Nobody talks to the president of the senior class that way. Nobody!
You're right, Lex, you're right.
What's interesting about this version of Lex is that you can drop him into shows like Euphoria, Riverdale, or 13 Reasons Why, and he fit right in. In episode 8, The Fixer, he throws parties where he secretly records his classmates and blackmails them.
My hard disk drive holds biographies of everyone at Schuster, from the president on down to the lowest of the frosh.
Yeah, he's a Diddy disciple. His selfish streak ramps up in episode 12, Kryptonite Kills, when he ditches his girlfriend there in a fire, then tells Leo to save the Kryptonite necklace instead of his girlfriend. Between casually bopping women, straight up being an kleptomaniac, he's less mad scientist and more campus menace. That begins to shift in episode 26, Luther Unleashed. His obsession with science and his rivalry with Superboy finally takes center stage. Episode 26 loosely draws from Adventure Comics 271, where a lab accident causes Lex's hair loss, and sparks his iconic grudge. Of course, Lex's baldness origin has changed over the years. A radiation shower in Smallville, a fire in Superman Birthright, and male pattern baldness. Horseshoe Lex is nasty work. The show's version of Lex even wears different wigs throughout the finale, a clear nod to Gene Hackman's Lex from the Christopher Reeve films. Lex's evolution from petty schemer to true villain makes him one of Season 1's most entertaining characters. Season 1 has some fun episodes that I wanted to give an honorable mention to, as they best showcase the series' growing embrace of fantastical elements, but don't really serve a purpose story-wise. In episode 19, War of the Species, Superboy clashes with an android from another dimension. In episode 21, Mutant, sees Superboy rescue a renowned scientist and TJ from mutant aliens. And lastly, episode 24, Hollywood, Superboy is sent back in time to the 1930s. Season 1 is a mixed bag. It starts strong with character-driven stories and a solid balance of social issues and superhero action. However, the limited budget early on meant patchy effects and pacing issues. Horrible ADR.
Keep someone at his side at all times. All right. Hey, Henry, what's going on?
And bad production quality. As the season progressed and more episodes were ordered, the focus shifted heavily toward fantastical elements and big set pieces, often sidelining characters like Lana and TJ. Their once vibrant roles become more peripheral, reflecting the show's evolving priorities. Season 1 shines when it focuses on Superboy's connection to the community. Memorable moments include him refereeing a basketball game in episode 8, The Fixer. And honestly, he had too much aura on that court. Another moment was in episode 25, Succubus, where Superboy plays a baseball game for charity. Seeing superheroes interact with everyday people gives them a grounded, relatable charm. My favorite Superboy moment comes from episode 7, The Beast and the Beauty, where he's framed for a string of robberies by an imposter. Instead of breaking out of jail, he calls his friends to bail him out.
TJ, I need your help. I'm down at police headquarters, and there's been a little misunderstanding. I need to borrow some money for bail.
You need to be bailed out of jail?
It's a long story. I'll tell you about it when you get here.
Right.
It's a small but charming scene that shows his faith in others and his commitment to doing the right thing. There are also cool moments of Clark using his powers for convenience.
Lana says she's tired of being stood up. Says that I'm no one she can depend on anymore. Her exact words. Whoa, that must have been some letter, huh?
What else can I tell you, my dear boy?
Superboy also has some ore farming moments as well too.
Lex.
Glazing aside, Season 1 also features some notable guest stars, including a young Joaquin Phoenix, credited as Leaf Phoenix, and Kiri Hiroyuki Tagawa, best known as Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat.
Your soul is mine.
While Season 1 has ups and downs, it laid the foundation for the show to evolve into something more adventurous. I'll hold off on ranking the season until I've gotten through the other 3 seasons, so stay tuned for part 2. I think it's a good stopping point for now. So, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and do the YouTube things. Like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on more of my content. And I'll see you in part 2.